welcome back to the channel. This is Rich, T3 Angling. Today we're going to very quickly cover in part 3 the build process, my ideology that went into this box build. Just a real quick recap from the overview and part 2. So part 1, we had our box. It was fully decked out. As you can see, most of the holes I don't have to re-drill anything. I did fix the holes here on top. All these little spots you see here, they were the holes, if you remember, 2 were close together and 2 were offset, and I didn't like it and I wanted to fix it. So when I did the build box originally, I just kind of let it go. I was like, nobody's going to see this. Then I decided to do the video. I didn't have another box. They're more expensive now, even on Amazon, than they were before. So I decided not to buy a new box and just rebuild this one. So I deconstructed everything, as I said in one of the earlier parts. I went ahead and took the liberty to fix the holes. I did find another piece of wood down in the garage, so I made another plate. Everything else will stay the same as far as the lights and stuff go. There are no additional holes in the box here. So with that, we quickly went into the tools that we're going to need, which we went over. So I'm not going to recap those because those are all in part 2. So let's get into part 3. Right. So part 3, as you can see, I've deconstructed the previous box. What I did is I took apart everything. So the switch panel, I took apart. I'm having a brain fart for a second. The cable gland that I used. So the cable gland, if you recall, was just the hole here, and it was not symmetrical with all the others. So I just decided to fix that. So this is the backside washer for that. That's all we need is that diameter hole. So we'll slide that approximately there. We can align these things, make them, look a little more symmetrical. This is our Q3 or QC, 3.0 quick charge for our cell phones. This is representing the YoloTek power port, or the Attwood power port here, because it's roughly the same diameter. So I'm just going to use that as just a guide reference point. And then this is for our master switch. So the biggest thing that we had to do, this obviously is the new plate. This is the old plate. So basically what I did is I cut the new plate so it's a little wider and a little bit longer. As you can see here, this one's kind of short on the ends. And I went a little bit wider. If you take the new plate and lay it in there, it comes out, pretty much covers the whole thing. There's a little bit of gap in there, but not much. So what I did is I took the old plate, kind of laid it over the top, make sure I got my holes in the corner for my screws. They're here, 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 and here, so that they're equal, they're symmetrical. It doesn't look like crap anymore. It doesn't look like bad shoddy work. So we fixed that. One thing I want to cover is how I mount the plate to the lid, right? I mentioned that in one of the earlier parts, and basically you've got a couple of components here. So here, I'm going to put this right here for a second, so I got a little bit of contrast. So this is a 3.5 inch 8 by 32 machine screw. I found them on Amazon. Got like a pack of 50 or whatever. They're black oxide. They just look better with the box, since the box has a black handle and black lockings. So I just decided to go with black oxide. So there's that, and then the matching nylon nut. You can also get off Amazon. I'll leave links into everything. And then this is 2 1-inch nylon washers. Now, I don't have any nylon washers here at the moment to go ahead and make one, but this is what they look like. They're from the Everbuilt. They're called spacers, and there's the dimensions, and these are 1/2 inch. So you can see that. I don't know if you can see that there, but they're 1/2 inch. They're not 1 inch. But these in here, there are 2 of these, the same dimensions, the 0.171 internal diameter, 3/8 inch outside diameter, and then they're 1/2 inch long. but these are actually 1 inch. So the measurement's the same minus the length. So I have two 1 inch spacers here, and all I did was I took a piece of shrink wrap, I put them together, slid it over, make sure it was long enough. I heat shrunk it, and then I just trimmed off a little bit of the excess because I didn't need the excess heat shrink. So, and you need to leave both ends open. So what this does is, the way this works is you put your screw in your outside of your hole, and this will be silicone once we put everything together the final time. And then you take your washers here in your shrink wrap, you slide it over that, and then you put your plate on. And obviously this is probably not going to cooperate on camera, obviously. So you put your plate on. Let's see, it would go, yeah, I've got it backwards. So let's turn around this way. Right, and then it would go like that. So I don't have the right size hole for this one, but it would be there. And so what you do is you slide it in your hole, and then you take your nylon washer, put it on there, and you tighten it down, right? So with the new plate, get this old one out of the way. The holes are been drilled correctly this time, and they're a little bit bigger, so you see that one slid right on. And then you just simply put your nylon washer on there. Now, when you screw that all the way down, the screw is going to stick up a little bit, but that's fine. It doesn't get in the way. It doesn't hurt anything. But then you're going to have four. You're going to have 4 of these, right? One in each corner, the screw and the nut. And then what that does is that keeps your plate up at a certain height, but it doesn't interfere with the depth of the box. So that's what you need there, right? So I'm just going to take this apart real quick because you don't need it right now. And to move this video along, I don't want to get stuck and just start rambling. So I want to get through this pretty quickly. Again, today we're just going to talk about the build process and the thought process into why I did what I did, the way I did it, and the ultimate goal and outcome. So again, when we're setting up our box, we want to work with how the lid's going to open, right? So the hinges are going to be on this side. So when I open the box, I'm going to be opening it, I guess, from left to right. I guess would be a way to do that, or say that. And so what we got to do is we got to make sure we build the plate the same way, right? So we're going to lay it out like this. Our plate goes in there, and you can see it covers much more of the inside part of the box. There's still a little gap all the way around, but that's not a big deal. So here on your handle side, because this is concave, this is where your solar charge controller is going to go. And the reason for that is, let's get this out of the way for a second, is there's nothing sticking down below this that needs to go inside the box, right? This is all on top of the plate. So the only thing you're going to do is have wires coming through here. So this is the most shallow part of the box, and here we need this depth for our switches and some other things that are a little bit longer. So when we lay that down in there, and obviously it's going to stick up some. So our layout, our solar charge controller is going to be approximately right there. And again, there's only screws going to be holding this in place. There's nothing on the back side. It's depth. It's going to get in the way of anything. So we don't have to worry about that there. If you remember, this is a glow cup from Ice Hole Power. Jeremy and those guys over at iceholepower.com. They're ice fishermen. And what that does is basically if you're fishing with a rig that glows in the dark or whatever, you can put it in there, charge it with that UV light, and then you get a crappie jig or whatever it is you're using. So it's illuminated, right? And then we have our plate for all of our switches, as we had in the original layout. We're going to have our wire gland over here, and the reason for that is when we run the wires, we're gonna run the wires from the battery that's going to be inside the box, and we're going to run them over here into this wire gland and up and under, and then into the master switches, which is going to be over here. And the reason why we want to do that is so that when the wires when we go to open and close our lid, the wires are going to push away from the hinges and not go towards the hinge. Because I did it a couple of times and it pinched the wire and it eventually broke one of them. So by putting this wire gland in there, and there's probably other ways you could do that, but all it does is it keeps the wires away from the hinge. It pushes them away, and you'll actually see when I get through this whole thing, and I'll point that out. It pushes the wire away so they don't get pinched. So that's the purpose. That's really the only purpose of that. There's nothing on the inside of here that we need to waterproof, because all our waterproofing or weatherproofing is going to be on the outside of the box. So I'm just going to do a quick lineup here to kind of see how this is going to fit. So we have our glow cup, we have our wire gland, we have our switches, or our switch panel, I should say. We have one for our master switch, and then this, I'm using this to represent the Attwood port. Remember, it's going to go on the other side. I'm just using this to represent that because it's about the same diameter. So that's going to go there. And then our QC, this is our 3.0 versus the 2.5 that are here on the solar charge controller. Now, what you can do is you can get one of these 12 volt, like a cigarette lighter, and you can put that there instead of the USBs, because you have USBs here already, right? So you can do that either way. I just prefer the quick charge. I don't really use those much. 6, 1.5 dozen the other, it's your preference. So we're gonna have that. So we need one here. Now the inside diameter of these is all we need to drill out, because everything else is going to screw into it, and nothing's going to be on the outside of the box. So if we're looking at this the way we approximately, I'm going to trace out everything, line up everything, make sure it's symmetrical, make sure it's where I want it, get the right diameter, and then I'm going to use like a little pilot hole or something, maybe, or a little punch or something to make a little indentation. So when I draw my outlines and my drill holes, I know where everything's at. I'm going to center punch that. So when I go to drill them with the step bit, when I go do that with the step bit to drill out all my holes in the plate, as we did here, then I stay in the center. I don't get off like this one here. Obviously you can tell this one's going that way and this one's going that way, and these were crooked. So it was just it worked. There's nothing wrong with it, and nobody's really going to see inside the box. It's not for sale, so who really cares, right? But I just want to do a better job and tidy this thing up since I'm doing a video. All right. So until then, thank you. God bless you. We appreciate you watching. You're going to see the banner come up for like, share, subscribe, and comment. We hope you do so. If you like the content, hang around because we got more coming. Until then, we love you. God bless you. T3 out.